Everybody, it's Leeroy from Leeroy Gaming. In today's video, we're going to take a first look of Lords of Ravage. This is an indie title from a developer called Synthetic Domain. Now, on Steam, it is categorized as a roguelike deck builder, card game, card battler. But if you go into it expecting that, I think you're going to be a little confused. This is much more of a Darkest Dungeon type game, but in reverse, meaning you're kind of the bad guy, but it's got a bit of a twist. So in today's video, I'm gonna show you how this plays. The very first act, kind of like the demo of this, is available on Steam. I'll leave a link below. So if you enjoy this video, make sure to check it out. Now, we'll be looking at this for about 30 to 35 minutes, something like that. That's what I'm aiming for here. We're gonna kind of go over the mechanics, the battles, etc., and I'll give you my feedback on it as well. Now, a very quick disclaimer, guys. I am using a program to adjust my mouse cursor. This is not the cursor from the game, but for this video, so you can more easily, when you watch, see what I'm pointing to and interacting with, I'm using this modification. So hopefully you guys find this helpful and not distracting. If you do find it distracting, do let me know. I can always change it in future videos, but I hope you find this helpful. So let's go ahead and take a look at Lords of Ravage. So when you start this game, you're gonna get to pick a lord, and by default right now we only have one lord, Lord Berold. And if you play the tutorial, it's gonna give you a little backstory. So in the story, basically you play as Lord Berold. You are kind of a general for this conquering king who had basically started this group of dread knights to kind of help him win his battles, but for whatever reason he stops liking the way they're acting, and apparently the Dread Knights kind of went against his will, so he locked them up. You as the Lord Berold aren't very happy about it. In the tutorial, you go and free your Dread Knights, and then when your king basically is not happy that you saved them and decide, okay, you saved me, awesome, but your Dread Knights have to go to prison for 3 more years, you're like, nah, that ain't happening, and you kill them. So now you take over, you're the bad guy, and you gotta fight all the good guys. So every single lord, and it looks like there's gonna be 3 different lords, 2 of them are not available in the demo, is gonna have a set of abilities because you will be able to control them on a battlefield. So we'll go over those when we play, and then we can adjust the difficulty. We're gonna go ahead and actually play and show this to you on easy. This is the default difficulty that it sets it to. So let's go ahead and start the game. My faithful warriors and brothers in arms. In my visions, I saw the glory of the First Empire. Its unmatched power, its unprecedented wealth. In the center of everything was one artifact, on which the strength of the Empire relied. The Staff of Arcanon. Only legends about it have survived to this day. However, it is much more than a mere legend. Once its power is in our hands, we shall achieve true greatness. Today, we start our conquest. So, what I really like about this game is kind of the aesthetic. So, you'll notice it's got kind of like a 3D background, but then like 2D stand-up sprites. And these guys on the left are actually the good guys you're going to be fighting, as opposed to normally you're used to being kind of like the good guys on the left and fight the enemies on the right. And so there's a couple of things here. Here is your main character, his current health, his attack power, and then passives that impact him. So like leader gains armor equal to 20% of the damage dealt by followers, works outside of battle. So I'll explain that. So as we start up this initial battle, where we have to basically fight these good guys, you're going to be able to put up to 4 points worth of enemies, and then this second number tells you how many reinforcements points you're going to be able to use. And you start out with 4 different kind of characters. You have up to 4 blackguards, ritualists, occult evangelists, and then you have Dark Priest. And some of them will say Elite here. So it's very important because when they are Elite, they are going to take up 2 spots. And so the key here when you fight is any of these characters, when you fight, if they die permanently. But if they survive the battle, they will get EXP and going to be able to level up. Now the caveat here is that any time you can go ahead and enter combat as your main lord and say, you know what, I've had enough, I'm going to fight. But the big thing is any damage you take goes on to the next mission, and it takes time to heal that back. So there is a little bit of tugging back and forth and trying to decide when do you bring in your Lord Berold. And sometimes you may be like, oh my god, my character that I've leveled up twice is almost dead. Do I bring in my main guy? Because you can't just kind of retreat your little guy, just one of your guys. You either pull out all your characters and bring your main guy, or you go and, for example, you could have all your guys die, and then you'll have an opportunity to reinforce, as you'll see here in a second. So let's jump into this, and I'll kind of show you what's going on with this. So I'm going to go ahead and start by putting in Blackguard. You'll notice you can kind of put them in the front or back line. It's a little weird interface. Notice the camera kind of covers things. And so you can kind of hold right click and move the camera. It's a little weird, but I kind of like the aesthetic. Obviously a very dark aesthetic. And also, as you can see the abilities of the character. So these Blackguards, the top ability, that little red icon, means it's in melee. Deals 70% damage to an enemy. That's very basic. And the bottom is Vision of Terror. The little icon, the little clock icon, I can't click on it because you'll see it says right to the right of Vision Terror. It's a 3-turn cooldown. To the right of that, there's a little icon that says 1, and that little orb, that's how many action points it takes. And so the second ability is applies 1 stack of exhaust to a single target. Now you can hold control, and I'll explain what that is. So exhaust decreases the damage dealt by 25% per stack until the end of the owner's turn. So it's a way to debuff characters. So this guy is obviously just straightforward. He's got 100 health, where if you compare it to most of the other characters, that's pretty good. Even the Elite Dark Priest only has 100, and there's more characters that you can unlock. Now, the reality is these bad guys, or good guys technically, they're bad to us, they're very, very powerful. So you're going to see they're going to kind of kick your butt, which is very counterintuitive that you're going to be kind of losing initially. But really think these are kind of the chaff of the bad guy, which is you, and they're kind of like the big bad heroes. So let's go ahead and I'm going to find a little bit of a balance. So this Blackguard was only worth 1. We'll go ahead and bring out this Ritualist. He's interesting because, again, you'll notice both of his icons are the little green bow, so they gotta be in range. So we're gonna go ahead and put one here. And then the cultists here are interesting because you'll notice here it does not give you a icon as far as either the bow or the little sword. So here it says applies focus to an ally and adds 100% damage to a random enemy. And focuses increases the power by 25% per stack to this effect. So basically you're buffing the potential damage of the character that you select, and then regardless of whether you're in the front row or the back row, this character is going to go and auto attack a character. Now, because melee characters can only attack front row characters until back row character, or can only attack front row characters until they're dead, and then they can attack the back row characters. This is a way, because it targets a random enemy, where you can sometimes attack a back row enemy prematurely without technically having ranged attack. So that's, I find, very interesting. So for now, what we're going to go ahead as an example, I'm going to go ahead and bring out one of these guys as well. I'm going to stick him in the back row here. And then we're going to go ahead and let's bring in one more Blackguard, because notice here it says not enough combat space. It costs 2 combat spaces to bring out an elite, but I don't want to bring one right off the bat yet. So let's go ahead. Actually, I take that back. We're going to go and bring another Ritualist in. There we go. And let's go ahead and start combat. I will make you see the truth. Now, another feature here is you're going to know these little cards. I think this is where they get the card building. These are basically special abilities that you can use using EP. And so every turn you're going to get what's called 2 EP. And then you can use these to use different abilities. So if you use this card, all allied units gain 3 power, which is kind of makes them more stronger to their attacks. Another one applies 1 stack of focus to each ally. Another one, leader gains 10 strength. So that's your main guy's strength. So you can start powering up. So when he comes out, he's basically going to do more damage with his abilities. So let's go. And then you can also see show reinforcements. This shows what you could potentially bring back when they die. So returning to combat. All right, now because we do start with these 2 elements, you can also go ahead and buff something up if you want. So we're going to go ahead and just buff the leader. He's to 60 as an example. And now the thing that's interesting here is we get to go first, always. So we kind of get the jump on things. So let's take a look at things. So the Ritualist here, what's interesting about him, notice his Dark Blast deals 50% damage and tells you how much it's going to be of your power 5 to each enemy and adds 1 EP. So normally you get 2 of these Edict points every turn, but when you use this character, if you keep him alive, he's going to give you basically right now the equivalent of 50% more EP. So a good way to be able to spam more of these abilities. So let's go ahead, click on this. But, and my apologies, it actually hit both of them for 5, but just not for a lot of damage. Notice, they have 234 health. So that's pretty nasty. Also, you can kind of see what they're going to do next turn. So this kind of mage character is going to do Fire Blast, deals basically 18 damage to each enemy. That's nasty. That's, I mean, AoE, he can start wiping us out. And this guy's going to do Savage Assault, applies 1 stack of wound to each enemy. So here, that deals 20% damage at the start of a turn. And it's for 3 turns. So it's just going to stacking down. All right, we have this guy right here. Now, the big thing about the Cultist, when you can sacrifice him to add an AP, so an action point, and transfer any positive statuses he has to another character. But we're going to go ahead and use Blessing from Beyond. I'm going to apply Focus. I'm going to apply the Focus to, and you can kind of see how much damage these guys do. So, for example, this guy right here, again, he has an AP of 10, which is actually more than our tank. So I'm going to go ahead and apply Focus to that character in the back. And then he randomly attacked, unfortunately, the frontline character. We would have hoped that it was the other one. But now you'll notice his actual attack power is 12. So it has bumped up his damage to both characters to 6 instead of 5. So that's kind of nice. So there you go. Weaken them a little bit. You can see kind of how many of those action points each character has left. He's got 2. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to exhaust the mage because he's going to do a big AoE attack. So hopefully, notice here before he was going to do 18 damage to everybody. But now we're going to go ahead and exhaust him. And now he's going to do 13 damage to everybody. So there's a strategy of trying to weaken him. And we're going to attack the main character. We end turn. Now, also notice there's... There we go. Ooh. Yeah, that hurt. So notice I recovered 2 AP, but I can have actually up to 4 AP. So there's certain mechanics in the game that may make you want to hold on to your action points. Everybody else here, they all got 1 AP at the beginning of the turn. Now notice it cycled through new cards, and these are additional cards that you're gonna be able to get later on. There are rather additional cards that give you different effects. So this is kind of interesting. This causes all negative status effects on each enemy to tick 2 times. So if you have damage over time effects on the enemy, this could be pretty useful. Or again, we have 4 now. We can give all allied units 3 power. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to buff everybody. So before they die, a lot of them are going to probably die this turn or they might, depending who targets them. This Fire Blast hopefully won't finish him off, but let's go ahead and see what happens here. So let's go ahead and use this buffer again. We are going to buff in the backline. And so now this character is 16, so he's going to do 8 damage to everybody. So that's even better. Now, do notice, I want to point this out. This character only gets 1 AP per turn. If I save it for an extra turn, which we'll try and do with the other character, you can get this curse ability because it costs 2 action points, meaning you could only technically do it every other turn and do this big attack to 1 enemy. So we're going to go ahead and wait and do that on this other character. So let's go ahead and get the AoE on. Attack. We're going to end the turn. Oops. We do have... I probably should have used this before. What are we missing? Oh, we have one other attack. My bad. I thought we had left over. Okay, we're good here. Now it says, it reminds you, hey, one of your characters has an AP. You could lose this if it goes out over the max. But that's fine because we want to save this. So next turn, we can use a 2 AP ability. So there you go. Ooh, that was nasty. So we're very, very close to having people die. At this point, what we're going to do is we're going to want to hit one of the enemies of a really big attack. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and focus buff this cultist. There we go. We were lucky. It actually hit the perfect character. And now we can use this curse, right? Now we're also going to take a look here. We have applied 1 stack of focus to each ally. We're going to see if they can kind of go out with a bang. So let's go buff everybody some more. Now this character has 20 strength, which is really nice. And when we use this curse, it's going to do 200% damage, 40 damage to one enemy. I'm going to apply curse, so we're going to go and cast it on a mage in the background. There we go. He did a 52 plus 4 damage. That's pretty nasty. And he's got this curse that's going to do 3 damage whenever it receives any type of damage. And then we're going to go ahead and Dark Blast as well. So there we go. Notice it did 10 damage plus that 4 curse damage. That's great when you can multi-target an enemy. And then again, now we have 2 attacks of this guy. Now, for example, let's just imagine that these were your characters you did not want to lose. You can right now bring in Lord Berold. Notice he's actually gained some abilities so far. And so what's going to happen here is he has 600 plus 44 health, and that's 60 power. That's from the passives, the Insight passive and the Surprise Attack passive. So this is where you can decide, okay, we clearly know next turn they're all going to die. And they're going to permanently die. If you're okay with that, you end the turn, they're going to die. It's going to let you bring in more reinforcements through the next battle. Now notice this is combat 1 out of 3. You basically have up to 3 quote-unquote combats in order to beat these guys. If you don't beat them by the end of 3 turns, then you basically lose. So, as an example, I'm going to, let's say, pretend we don't want to lose all these characters. Let's bring Lord Berold into combat. This battle has gone too long. It's time to intervene. They exited. They're now alive. They're going to, if you win, gain XP. And now Mr. Badass is here. And then there's a little flavor text. So now they're a little damaged. And you're going to notice that he's got 1 AP. And he's got his own abilities and a passive as well. So his passive is Escalation. The unit starts on phase 1 and progresses 50% towards the next phase each turn. So phase 2, after 1 turn, you're going to get plus 1 AP per turn, but you lose 15 power. So you're going to get weaker, but you're going to be able to attack more often. Then the next turn, you're going to gain 15 power, and then the next turn, you're going to get a 25% damage reduction buff. Now, he's got a couple abilities. Here's one ability that's got a 5-turn cooldown. Careful Advance deals 100% damage to a single enemy and applies 3 stacks of Resilient to yourself. And Resilient reduces all incoming damage by 25%. It drops by 1 every time you get hit. So this is a good way to basically protect yourself, and so you take less damage, which we may do very well here. He also has Unnatural Strength. This is a 2-turn cooldown. Unit clears all negative status effects and gains 10 power. So if they debuff you with a bunch of dots, this is what you want to use. Another 2-turn cooldown is Maim. You deal 100% of your damage. So again, we have 60 power. So it'd be 60 damage. And apply 1 stack of Horrific Wound. And that's a dot that deals 25%. So for us, 15 damage at the start of a turn. And these stacks stack independently. And this lasts 8 turns. Very powerful. And then you have your basic attack, Cleave. You do 100% damage to a single enemy and 50% to the rest of the same rank. And rank is up and down, so it wouldn't hit these 2, unfortunately, but if they had multiple frontliners, it will. So we'll use this big cooldown, Careful Advance. Now we may do Angry. So he's almost dead here. We have these 3 defensive buffs. We're out of the action points, and we're going to end the turn. Notice you no longer get the EP points anymore. That's only when you have your minions. They did some damage to us, but we're still over our max, so this is not bad. Now we have some more stuff we can do here. We don't have any debuffs. Well, we do actually have wound on us. So what we can do here, we can go ahead and remove the debuff potentially if we wanted to. But what we really want to do is we want to kill this guy up front. He has 54 health. Doesn't look like he has any protections. So let's go ahead and see if we can just finish him. There we go, 78 damage. So now it's mono on mono here. Let's go ahead and end the turn. I'm not a huge fan of the dot going on us, but to be honest, that's okay. We're going to go ahead and use maim because it does a lot of damage at range, and it's going to get that horrific wound stacked on him. There we go. And we have another AP here because, again, we gained 2. Technically, I could have removed the debuff, powered that up. That's what I probably should have done, but let's just do a normal attack. So again, unfortunately, we're going to get some extra damage to us here. The wound went off one more time. And now we can go ahead and finish him. So we win. So the positive here is that our characters survived, which is great. But we did take some damage. So we're 554 out of 600. That's not too bad. And we could have done a little bit better if I min-max things a bit. Now, here are our mission rewards. We get black cards. You'll notice our black card got EXP, so did our Ritualist and our Cult Evangelist. And so if they had died, they wouldn't have gotten this. So that is the combat portion. Now here's kind of like the overworld quest portion. And so there are 2 things to do here. You can manage your units, and this is what you have. You have 12 followers, 2 elites, and it kind of shows how many you have and their stats, etc. And you'll notice here, even though you have multiple of them, it's kind of odd because it'll show you if any of them have EXP. You'll notice these little gold chevrons, but they don't all have EXP. So I wish there was a way for it to tell you how many of them have EXP. Now what's kind of cool is you can use certain resources, which are forbidden knowledge and gold, to upgrade characters. So as you get enough EXP, you're able to give them upgrades. So for example here, you could, because this unit does have the money and the dark power for him, he's able to get some power. So potential upgrades here is on death, leader restores 10% of max health, and gains 5 power. So that's kind of an interesting ability. Initially, you can only have 1 upgrade, but then you can have more as they level up. So for example, let's go ahead and upgrade the black card to have that. There we go. And the other options right now, obviously you can't afford, and he's also kind of maxed out. But now your black card has a second effect, which is really quite nice. Now here it's going to list what edicts you have, and you're going to get these through different quests, and also your conquered locations that provide passive buffs. So here, for example, leaders gain armor equal to 20% of damage dealt by followers, works outside of battle. So this is, again, where you can upgrade your units, check them out, but you can also hire them sometimes. So if you are low in units but you have gold and you have less than your normal cap, so right now we actually have 2 more than our natural cap of our black cards and 1 more than our Ritualist, so we can't hire them. So as you can see, they're kind of expendable, but because you can upgrade them if they survive, you sometimes want to keep them alive. Now, here's the kind of main game. You have this kind of area that you're in, and you'll notice there's 0 of 25 region conquests. So what this means is you need to finish quote-unquote 25 missions before you fight the kind of final mission of the area. And the way it works, and it's kind of weird, is that you are going to have 5 missions you're going to complete that are kind of passive, and after that you're going to have to fight a battle. And these are the missions. So you can kind of see on the right hand side what it's called. There's a little story, but what you mainly care about is the rewards. So if you play this mission, you're going to get a Dark Priest and you're going to get a Knight Archer. Here, for example, you would get an Edict, Barrier, applies 3 stacks of resilience to an ally, and you get 12 forbidden knowledge. Now, this is interesting. You're going to notice that it also has a reward, for example, for an edict, but there's this red icon here. This means that if you don't do this turn, it's going to go away. So if you, for example, really wanted EXP for all your reinforcements, then you better do this now or it's going to go away. Or you could just get gold, or you could get more of these powers. So, for example, right now I'm out of books, but I also like some abilities. So let's go ahead and get this one. You're going to get a little bit of books, a little bit of knowledge. You click start mission, and it just completes it. That's it. Which I don't know how I really feel about that. But now this goes to 4. So you have 4 more options like that. So you keep going down this. You look at the rewards. What do you want? So here's Recharge Edict. Adds 2 charges to each ability of a target follower. So certain characters you have will have abilities, and you can only use them a certain amount of times before they're out of charges. So that's kind of an interesting one. But let's say we want a little gold, so we're going to select that. And again, there's flavor text, which you may choose to read or not read. Let's go ahead and get a couple more of these units. There's 2 more. Here's some more units. So again, you can choose, hey, am I going to be getting these buffs? Am I going to get these resources? If you had lost a lot of characters in that first battle, maybe you'd want these. But for example, let's say this edict deals 20% damage and plays 1 stack of curse to each enemy. That's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and pick that up. And then you have 1 more. Let's take a look at here. You can get power and another ability. Resets ability cooldown for ally. So remember, some of the abilities had like a 2-turn cooldown. Sometimes it's more. So this is a way we can reset that, which is kind of cool, but it is an edict. Doesn't actually show what the cost is, interestingly enough. Maybe it's free, but probably not. But we'll get this because this is kind of interesting. And now you're going to notice it's kind of weird because it didn't show us, like it says turns to no combat 5, but really the next one is going to be a combat. And normally what happens here, it's also going to pop up some interesting battles. And you basically want to select one of these that are highlighted, and they're going to have a battle, but they're going to have also better rewards. So here's 2 edicts. This one is going to give you access to a location. You can unlock this Oracle Pillars, and initially you'll get Forgotten Boon. Each ability units have gain 1 extra charge, and then you can upgrade it potentially later on, just like you can upgrade units here. This is your first basic location, and it has no upgrades. But as you unlock these, it's going to give you more of them. So you got to strategically decide what you want, but also it's going to show you what you're going to fight. So expected enemies, you're going to take a look. This is a defense mission if we pick this. And you have to repel enemy evasion during 3 battles, but you cannot reinforce your squad during a battle. So basically, it's 3 separate little mini encounters, and you would fight an assassin. You can see all their abilities and a paladin. Or maybe you want this one because you're interested in Imperial Armory. With your combat start, followers gain 6 power until the end of the turn. So it gives you a big boost turn 1. But you got to fight a commander, a swordsman, an archer. So maybe if you have a bunch of AoE attacks, this will be better. Or you can do this battle and you're going to fight a druid and a priestess. Let me kind of show you just here. Let's say we pick this one, start the mission. It takes you into another little combat here. There's different locations, etc. Hello, flavor text. Kingslayer, I feel like I should be surprised to see you. You really thought you could just walk out on this place. And there's obviously a little story related because, again, these guys used to be on your side, and now you're going against them. So again, similar effect. This defense was similar to our first battle. Sometimes, again, it'll tell you 1 out of 1 combat, and you just have multiple reinforcements. And again, this will tell you how many followers you can bring out, and you have the strategy that goes along with that. Again, we have now new edicts. These cycle through that are different all the time. My character did get to heal to 600, which was nice. So we basically got to keep all those characters from the first battle, and we got to heal to full. But for example, let's say our Lord got really beat up. It's possible he could be at half health right now, and that would be much, much more dangerous. So that's the whole balance of this game. Once again, you finish 25 of those activities. We had finished 5. This is the 5th one, basically. So once you do these 5 cycles of battles, as well as those passive missions, you're going to fight a big battle for the area, and if you win, you move on to the next one. We don't know how big this is going to be because this is Act 1, but that is the exact process. So the graphics, I really like them. This kind of 3D background and 2D sprites. Now, some people complain that depending on the view, like the health bars will block each other, and I get that. I normally kind of pick an angle where I can see them all, and it doesn't bug me too much. What kind of bugs me sometimes is a little quirky placing this, a little bit. So minor gripe. Yeah, that's my only real complaint. Otherwise, I really like the aesthetic of the enemies. It'd be nice if I could see the abilities more easily, all the abilities of the enemies. There may be a way to do that. I haven't figured it out. Obviously, we got to see it when we were choosing the battles. And so, again, here, I just want to use it as an example. I'm going to bring out a Dark Priest for you, and it's going to take up 2 spaces. Now, I do want to point out again, frontline fighters can only hit frontline enemies, so even though technically there's nobody blocking here in the front, they still can't be attacked. And again, we get the first turn, and I'm going to go ahead and start the combat here, as you can see, and you get your first 2 EP. And then again, you got to decide, are you going to save it, because this does save up for maybe something more expensive a future turn, or go all in early on. So basically, that's the whole cycle of the game so far. Again, I find it quite charming. It does feel a little bad when you lose a kind of a character that you have leveled up, because currently you don't get anything when they die and you've lost this progress. So that's my only minor gripe and complaint. But I really like the aesthetic. The music, actually I have it disabled here for this video, but the video is kind of cool, kind of heavy duty. This is a developer, I think somewhere in Eastern Europe. So they're doing a good job. I think it's a very small developer, but it's a very fun, charming game. If you like the kind of reverse Darkest Dungeon aesthetic and you want to be the bad guy killing the good guys, got a little bit of a card battler, but again, I think it's more about the tactical combat. This is a smaller part of it. Then I think this is worth the trial. And again, you can get this for free as a demo on Steam, so do check out the link below and let me know your thoughts. So thank you for watching this. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this preview. If you do, drop a like, subscribe, and let me know your thoughts. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.